Servicol Sistemas, nuevo sponsor de este canal. Servicol Sistemas, no solo diferentes, somos mejores. Sistemas, nuevo sponsor de este canal. Servicol Sistemas, no solo diferentes, somos mejores. Sponsor de este canal, Servicol Sistemas, no solo diferentes, somos mejores.
Western-made tanks being added to Ukraine's growing armored arsenal are going to come with hard-hitting rounds that its forces can use to punch holes in Russia's tanks and wreak havoc inside. The U.S., which has already promised to send Ukraine its combat-proven M1 Abrams tanks, is expected to follow in the UK's footsteps and also send armor-piercing depleted uranium tank rounds designed to defeat even hard-to-beat armor. These rounds do what others do not. Retired U.S. Army Lieutenant General Thomas Spare, who served with the 1st Armored Division during his nearly 4 decades in the military, told Insider, "With a tank round, it's all about getting inside the tank, penetrating the armor and getting into the crew compartment and destroying the tank," he said. 2 options for achieving this are shaped charges and penetrators. Penetrators are rods that look like an arrow and are a couple feet long and roughly as thick as a shovel handle. The complete round, which consists of a primer, propellant.
Si no puedes aportar económicamente al canal, suscríbete, comenta y comparte. Esto ayudará mucho a seguir informando.
A discardable sabot for moving it along the tank barrel, and the penetrator are more robust and capable than shaped charges, and better for pinpoint kinetic strikes at range in tank-on-tank battles. These armor-piercing sabot rounds rely on dense metals, specifically tungsten or depleted uranium, to punch through enemy armor. Tungsten is a rare earth metal, and depleted uranium is a byproduct of the uranium enrichment process. Russia claims there's a nuclear component, which isn't true. There are, however, radioactive effects if depleted uranium enters the body. It is all about the density of the metal that's in your penetrator because you want to hit a tank with a metal that is denser than the armor of the tank. Spoor, director of the Center for National Defense at the Heritage Foundation, said. "If you can do that at the right speed," he continued, "then you stand a pretty good chance of getting through the armor on the tank to score a potential kill. Some penetrator tank rounds, like the American M829 for the Abrams tanks, can achieve muzzle velocities greater than 5,000 feet per second, though that's not the speed at the point of impact when it strikes. The U.S. military has employed both tungsten and depleted uranium penetrators. Both are dense metals, but secondary characteristics make depleted uranium rounds particularly effective. 1. Depleted uranium rounds sharpen kind of like a pencil as they penetrate enemy armor, giving them a better chance of busting through it. Tungsten rounds don't do that. Instead, they strike like a hammer and sort of flatten out or mushroom on impact. 2. Depleted uranium tank rounds are pyrophoric, which means they burst into flame under intense heat and pressure. When the rod penetrates the armor of an enemy tank, explodes and shatters, the pieces ignite inside, causing fires that can then ignite the ammunition, kill the crew, and destroy the tank more effectively than metal shrapnel alone. 3. The depleted uranium tank rounds are more durable than the tungsten penetrator rounds, which are more brittle and are, therefore, more vulnerable to the effects of explosive reactive armor. Reactive armor is a type of vehicle armor that uses outward explosive force to either pre-detonate a shaped charge or break, repel, or deflect a penetrator, preventing it from functioning effectively. Explosive reactive tank armor kind of increases the chance that the penetrator will not hit at the correct angle, Spoor said. The Russians use this type of defense pretty extensively. Jack Watling, a land warfare expert at the Royal United Services Institute, previously told Insider, "It is pretty rare to find a Russian tank where the vehicle crew hasn't blasted ERA on every single surface they can conceivably get it on. In Ukraine right now, Tank-on-tank battles are relatively uncommon compared to other engagements. But in those tank fights, Russian tanks have been well protected by the added reactive armor that has proven highly effective against most anti-tank systems. Watling and fellow land warfare expert Nick Reynolds reported recently in a detailed look at evolving Russian tactics. This armor has done especially well against barrel-launched anti-tank guided missiles. The depleted uranium penetrator rounds are better suited to not being destroyed by reactive armor, Spohr said, adding that they hold up well. They're not snapped or broken easily, so they typically are not defeated by reactive armor, he said. These capable rounds are able to withstand the kinetic forces of the explosion of the reactive armor better than most metals, Spohr said. That is not to say reactive armor can't defeat one of these, but you're more likely to get inside a tank with a depleted uranium penetrator, even if it has reactive armor. Tank rounds, of course, aren't the only way to defeat an enemy tank. Other options include anti-tank mines, drones, artillery, and anti-tank guided missiles like the FGM-148 Javelins that use shaped charge heat warheads to defeat reactive armor and have been extremely effective in the war in Ukraine. The threat posed by certain anti-tank guided missiles have led Russia, which has lost nearly 2,000 tanks over the course of the war, to change up its tank operations, exercising more caution, but doing so at the expense of the kind of breakthrough and assault operations that make tanks useful.
Si no puedes aportar económicamente al canal, suscríbete, comenta y comparte, esto ayudará mucho a seguir informando.
Russian forces tried to advance toward the towns of Kupiansk, Lyman, Avdiivka, Marinka, and Shakhtarsk in eastern and southeastern Ukraine, but failed to make any headway on June 17th, according to the General Staff of Ukraine's armed forces. The Ukrainian military reported 22 engagements across these areas. Over the past 24 hours, Russian forces also hit Ukrainian territories with 37 airstrikes and 19 attacks with multiple rocket launchers. One strike killed a person and wounded 3 in Kherson Oblast. Meanwhile, Russian forces remain on the defensive in Zaporizhia and Kherson Oblasts, anticipating the recently launched Ukrainian counteroffensive. Russian defenses are thickest in Zaporizhia Oblast, with multiple lines stretching all the way down towards occupied Crimea. Ukrainian aviation, in turn, conducted 9 strikes against Russian personnel and an air defense system, according to the report. Rocket and artillery forces destroyed 2 Russian ammunition depots and 1 artillery unit. Ukrainian forces hit the Russian ammunition depot in the village of Partizani in southern Kherson Oblast, Air Force spokesperson Yuri Inat told national television on June 18th. Partizani sits just on the administrative border with neighboring Zaporizhia Oblast, 45 kilometers west of Russian-occupied Melitopol. You probably watched the work in the village of Partizani. Watch the burning ammunition depots. The commander has already thanked the guys for their good work, Inat said, confirming the videos posted online with the fire and detonation. Inat did not disclose what type of missile the Air Force used to attack the Russian ammo depot in Partizani. Several attacks on Russian ammunition depots in occupied territories have been reported within the last few weeks as Ukraine was preparing for the summer counteroffensive. One of these directions is near Melitopol, according to the statements from the Defense Ministry. Melitopol, a city with a population of about 150,000 people, has been occupied since late February 2022. The city serves as a railway center for Russian forces in southern Ukraine and is part of the land bridge that links Russia to occupied Crimea. Since Ukraine launched the much-anticipated counteroffensive on June 8th, its forces liberated a total of 7 settlements in Donetsk and Zaporizhia Oblasts, reclaiming more than 100 square kilometers, the military said on June 15th.
Si no puedes aportar económicamente al canal, suscríbete, comenta y comparte, esto ayudará mucho a seguir informando.